mean, big picture, A, more Americans need to get vaccinated, period, regardless of who gets a booster shot or not. And B, the whole world population needs to get more vaccinated than it is, if we are ever going to get to the end of this thing. And while all these approval decisions are working their way through our system for the U.S. population, one of the other dynamics at work now is that President Biden's most senior advisors on COVID are getting sort of increasingly outspoken, are leaning increasingly hard on the companies producing these vaccines, particularly Moderna, that they need to get off their wallet and start really kicking up their production capacity. They need to start making more. Because for all the drama and the mishigas around vaccines in this country, writ large, a vaccine, as far as we know, is humankind's way out of this pandemic. It's the way out for our country. It's the way out for the world. And no country can get out of it until the world gets out of it. And therefore, we need lots more vaccine to be able to get there. President Biden's most senior advisors now advocating that the companies making these vaccines need to make more. Joining us now is Dr. David Kessler. He's a former FDA commissioner. He's now chief science officer for the White House's COVID-19 response. Dr. Kessler, it's always a real honor to have some time with you. Thank you so much for making time to be here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
First, let me ask you about this advisory process and the consideration around these boosters. Am I right to worry that the focus on the boosters, while important, that we need to worry about whether or not that might be distracting attention, might be distracting focus from the sort of more overwhelming need to just get more people vaccinated full stop, regardless of whether or not certain populations eventually get a third dose?
I agree with you 100%. Job number one is to get the unvaccinated vaccinated. No doubt that is the first and foremost item on the agenda. I do think the step that the advisory committee took today to recommend a booster shot of Moderna at least 6 months for people who are 65 years of age and, as you said, at high risk, I think that's an important step because assuming an FDA and ACIP go along, that brings Moderna and Pfizer into sync. You know, we've administered 7 million Pfizer doses so far. 1 out of 3 eligible seniors have received their boosts. And data presented from Israel, shown at the advisory committee today, showed an 11-fold reduction in infection after boosts and a 19-fold reduction in severe disease. So boosters give people increased protection against infection. But no doubt, getting people who are not vaccinated is job one.
And Dr. Kessler, in terms of this consideration tomorrow around Johnson & Johnson, there's been some intriguing reporting that that's a different type of vaccine than the mRNA vaccines, than Pfizer and Moderna. It's a single-shot vaccine thus far. Is it possible that the booster recommendation around Johnson & Johnson might not be that people should get a second shot of that vaccine, but rather their second shot should be one of the others?
So let me give you the data. You're right. For all people who took the J&J vaccine, tomorrow is their day at the advisory committee. The data will be presented. We know that J&J's own 2-dose study, so that's J&J with J&J, shows that a second dose of J&J increases protection by about 20% against moderate to severe disease. So that is very good news. But you're also talking, and the committee will also look at what's known as the mix and match studies. And these results are very exciting. The company didn't do these, but the NIH did these. And the mix and match studies give excellent boosts, certainly with regard to neutralizing antibodies. So let's see what FDA recommends.
Fascinating. And talking about what the companies have done and what the companies have spent money to figure out versus what the government has spent money to figure out. NIH-funded studies, for example, in those mix and match questions. I've been interested to see the discussion around specifically Moderna, which is a company that the U.S. taxpayers have dumped billions of dollars into overall, and to great effect. I mean, Moderna has contributed massively with their vaccine to humanity's arsenal against this pandemic. But because the U.S. taxpayers have contributed so much to what that company is and what they've been able to bring to market, you've spoken out recently saying that Moderna needs to really step it up in terms of just the number of doses they are producing, both for the U.S. market, but particularly for the world, and the COVAX initiative and other ways that we've strategized to try to make sure that the world gets vaccinated.
I've been very direct with them. We need Moderna to provide substantial doses at a not-for-profit price to low-income countries. We need them to do it now. And we need the companies to create manufacturing capacity in Africa. Having real manufacturing capacity on the African continent will make a real difference in access for many people who do not have access to these vaccines. They need to step it up, and they need to do it now.
Is Moderna resisting those calls, or are they responsive to those concerns?
They've heard our message loud and clear. I hope there's progress. We will hold their feet to the fire.
Dr. Kessler, let me also ask you about going back to what you said was job one. The latest numbers that I've seen say that there's still between 60 and 70 million Americans who haven't gotten a single shot. And there is all this talk about the boosters, and there's interesting talk about, therapeutics and the antiviral pill from Merck and all this stuff. But that job one of getting people to get their first vaccine shot, people to get on the train to getting fully vaccinated, are there things that we could be doing that we are not doing? Are there things that were within the government's power or within our power as a country that could winnow that number down? Are there things that you wish that we were doing that we haven't yet been able to do?
So one set of very interesting numbers is that we went from 95 million people unvaccinated before the president's vaccine requirements in July to 66 million today. So we were at 95 million unvaccinated in July. Those requirements were announced, and we're now down to 66 million. So vaccine requirements work. They are good for the economy. They're supported by the majority of the American people. And most importantly, they save lives. So I think we have these requirements. We have boosts. Let's get our kids vaccinated. The FDA Advisory Committee will reconvene at the end of this month. Hopefully those doses, after FDA review, can start rolling out to our kids. So I think with those things, those increased requirements, boosts, getting kids vaccinated, we can make real progress.